Wendigo origins, Algonquin Native American. Shiver! With each harsh winter, the specter of the Wendigo rises, sowing terror across the Algonquin lands. In 1878, Swift Runner slaughtered his entire family, and his only explanation was, "The Wendigo possessed my soul." Don't miss the chilling secrets of the Wendigo and other native legends. Hit the subscribe button on the thick Native Legends and History Stories YouTube channel now so you don't miss a single video. From the depths of Algonquin lore emerges a terrifying entity, a specter haunting the minds of people for centuries, the Wendigo. More than a mere monster, the Wendigo embodies starvation, brutal winters, insatiable greed, and the horror of cannibalism. In Algonquin folklore, the Wendigo transcends the image of a savage beast. It is both a monstrous creature and a malevolent spirit, capable of possession and manipulation. When one speaks of the Wendigo, two contrasting images often arise. In its modern depiction, popularized through contemporary culture, the Wendigo appears as a grotesque beast, frequently portrayed with the head or skull of a stag, sometimes adorned with antlers. However, the traditional image of the Wendigo carries a distinct and primal horror. It is described as a gaunt, wretched corpse in a state of decay, with skin stretched taut over its skeletal frame, suggestive of wasting death and decay. What then gives rise to the Wendigo? Legend has it that a human being can transform into a Wendigo through two dark paths. Firstly, when greed and selfishness consume the heart, plunging them into the abyss of moral corruption. And secondly, and more horrifyingly, through the act of cannibalism. The tale of the Wendigo is not merely a warning about the perils lurking in a harsh natural world, but also a profound moral and ethical lesson. It serves to encourage moderation in life, community sharing, and warns against vile actions that defy moral and social norms. The symbolic meaning of the Wendigo extends beyond that of a simple monster. In Algonquin culture, the Wendigo is the embodiment of ultimate evil, representing corruption and degradation both from within and outside the community. The Wendigo's appearance is a stark reminder of the fragile boundary between humanity and monstrosity, between civilization and savagery. It urges people to live a balanced life, in harmony with nature, respecting each other and the world around them. For only in this way can the community resist the shadow of the Wendigo and maintain stability and prosperity. Continuing our descent into the Wendigo mythos, let us turn our gaze towards the creature's very form, a terrifying visage that chills the blood and haunts the coldest nightmares. The Wendigo's appearance is as much a source of dread as its supernatural abilities, a visual manifestation of the corruption and horror it embodies. In its contemporary image, the Wendigo is often envisioned as a towering, monstrous figure, dominated by a grotesque head. Imagine a stag's skull or a deer's head, unnaturally elongated and disturbingly fixed atop a humanoid or bestial body. Antlers, sharp and jagged like the branches of a dead tree in winter, frequently adorn this skull, further amplifying its demonic and unnatural aspect. This modern Wendigo is a fusion of the animalistic and the human, twisted into something profane and deeply unsettling to behold. However, to truly grasp the primal terror of the Wendigo, one must consider its traditional depiction. Here, the creature is not merely monstrous, but a stark and sickening reflection of death itself. Picture a gaunt, wretched corpse, horrifyingly thin, its very form screaming of starvation and decay. The skin is stretched taut and thin, clinging desperately to a skeletal frame that juts out at unnatural angles. It is the image of prolonged suffering and agonizing demise, a walking cadaver animated by malevolent intent. This traditional Wendigo is the embodiment of famine and the ultimate consequence of succumbing to winter's deadly embrace. Whether depicted as the stag-headed beast of modern imagination, or the emaciated corpse of ancient lore, the Wendigo's appearance is consistently designed to inspire abject horror. It is a being visually synonymous with fear, death, and the violation of natural order. To look upon the Wendigo, in any of its forms, is to confront the chilling specter of winter's famine, the grotesque consequences of cannibalism, and the terrifying potential for humanity to be corrupted into something truly monstrous. Moving from the chilling descriptions of the Wendigo's form and power, we now turn to disturbingly real accounts that have fueled the legend. Cases where the specter of the Wendigo seemed to step out of folklore and into stark, tragic reality. These are stories that blur the lines between myth and madness, leaving us to grapple with the unsettling question of where cultural belief ends and psychological breakdown begins. One of the most infamous and unsettling episodes is that of Swift Runner in 1878. A brutal winter grips the land, snow piled high, food scarce. Driven to desperation, Swift Runner, an Algonquin man, made a horrifying choice. He didn't just succumb to starvation, he descended into unimaginable darkness. He murdered and cannibalized his entire family. When confronted with the unspeakable horror of his actions, his chilling explanation echoed through the horrified community. "The Wendigo took my soul." Was this a convenient excuse, a desperate attempt to deflect blame for an unthinkable crime? Or was it a genuine expression of a mind fractured by starvation and cultural belief? A psyche grappling with a horror it could only articulate through the language of the Wendigo. Historians and anthropologists have since pointed to the extreme environmental pressures of that harsh winter as a potential catalyst, suggesting that in dire circumstances, the Wendigo mythos could become a framework through which unimaginable acts are rationalized or perhaps even instigated. Decades later, the shadowy figure of the Wendigo resurfaced in the stories surrounding Jack and Joseph Fiddler, Ojibwe shamans also known as Manitous. These brothers were arrested in the early 20th century for the alleged murders of over a dozen people. Their defense, steeped in the chilling lore of their people, was that these killings were not acts of malice, but grim necessities. They claimed their victims were transforming into Wendigos, possessed by the insatiable hunger and malevolent spirit. They were changing, Joseph Fiddler reportedly testified, his voice heavy with what could be interpreted as either conviction or madness. "We had to stop the transformation before it was complete, before they brought true horror upon us all." The tale reached a dramatic climax when Jack Fiddler, the elder brother, took his own life in jail before his trial, leaving Joseph to face the consequences alone. Joseph was ultimately sentenced to death, a sentence later posthumously commuted, adding another layer of unsettling ambiguity to the entire affair. Were these men murderers hiding behind a convenient myth, or were they figures caught in the terrifying intersection of cultural belief, mental instability, and perhaps a desperate attempt to protect their community in the only way they understood? These cases, and others like them, have given rise to the concept of Wendigo Psychosis. This term, sometimes debated and often contested, describes a culture-bound syndrome characterized by an intense craving for human flesh, often accompanied by paranoia and the belief that one is transforming into a Wendigo. While the very validity of Wendigo Psychosis as a distinct psychiatric disorder remains a point of contention within the medical and anthropological communities, these historical accounts offer a chilling glimpse into the powerful interplay between cultural narratives, psychological distress, and extreme human behavior. Interestingly, some researchers note a decline in reported cases of Wendigo Psychosis as Algonquin communities have adapted to more modern lifestyles and faced less extreme environmental pressures. Could this suggest that the Wendigo myth and the psychological states associated with it are intrinsically linked to specific cultural and environmental contexts, fading as those contexts evolve? The answer, like the Wendigo itself, remains elusive and shrouded in a degree of chilling mystery. Transitioning from the chilling historical accounts, we now observe how the Wendigo legend has not merely faded into obscurity, but has undergone a fascinating evolution, adapting and morphing to resonate with the anxieties of modern society. The ancient fear of winter famine and cannibalism has transmuted, becoming a potent metaphor for contemporary concerns. Unchecked greed, rampant selfishness, and a kind of metaphorical cannibalism of the spirit in our increasingly individualistic world. The Wendigo, once a specific figure in Algonquin folklore, has transcended its tribal origins to become a widespread trope in global popular culture. In this modern iteration, the visual depictions of the Wendigo often oscillate between the two primary archetypes. We've explored the antlered, monstrous beast and the gaunt, decaying corpse. You see echoes of the Wendigo in countless horror stories, films, and video games. Consider, for example, the chilling portrayal of the Wendigo in the television series Hannibal. Here, the creature serves not just as a monster in the woods, but as a sophisticated symbol of human corruption, the darkness that can fester within the human psyche, leading to acts of unimaginable depravity. Look at what he's become. A character in such a narrative might lament, observing a particularly cruel or avaricious individual. He's consumed by it. It's like the Wendigo itself has taken root in his heart. But what is the enduring power of this ancient myth in our modern age? The Wendigo, in its contemporary guise, serves as a stark warning about the ever-present dangers of unchecked desire and egoism. It reminds us of the vital necessity to maintain balance, not just in our relationship with the natural world, but within ourselves and our societies. The insatiable hunger of the Wendigo becomes a symbol for the corrosive nature of ambition untethered from empathy, the emptiness at the heart of materialistic pursuits, devoid of genuine human connection. In the end, whether viewed through a historical lens or examined in its modern cultural manifestations, the Wendigo remains a haunting and potent figure. Though born of specific Algonquin traditions, its resonance extends far beyond. It is a chilling reminder of the darkness that, folklore suggests, perpetually lurks at the edges of human experience, and perhaps more disturbingly, within the very depths of human nature itself. Let us, therefore, heed the ancient warning. Be ever vigilant against the Wendigo within ourselves, lest we too succumb to the icy grip of insatiable hunger and spiritual desolation. Want to explore more chilling and mysterious legends? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the Native Legends and History Stories YouTube channel to follow our next captivating videos.